All right, everyone. Hi, very warm welcome to all of you. My name is Harshit, and I am a history and political science educator for middle and senior school at Shivnada School, Noida. And we would be continuing our journey on this, quest for demystifying NCRT for grade 9 history. And in the first part of this series, we had seen that the French Revolution, how it inspired people across Europe to get into this restructuring of the society mode. Basically, everybody wanted to just radically bring about a change in the way the things were. They wanted to do away with the old customs, traditions, and so on and so forth. And they wanted to become modern. They wanted to become progressive. They wanted to become politically enlightened, and everything else. And to that regard, we saw what are the three types of people that you might encounter. What are the three types of ideologies that you might encounter if you were living in Europe at that point of time. So we saw who the liberals were, what their philosophy was. We saw the radicals and their philosophy, and finally the conservatives, right? If you have not checked that, check that lesson out. Just kindly pause this video, check out the previous session, and jump right into this one, right? So now for the rest, of course, we would be moving on. Today's agenda is simple. We would be looking at industrial society. Basically, big changes are happening by this point of time in Europe. The society, and by industrial society, I think it's pretty obvious. One can figure out that the society that the people were living in was becoming industrialized. Yes, I hope you remember this little story about this amazing inventor called James Watt, who invented the steam engine, and he triggered this wonderful revolution. Of course, this was a non bloody, non warfare centric revolution, which was, of course, the industrial revolution. Yes, so industrial revolution, of course, brought about a lot of prosperity for a lot of people across Europe, but it also meant a lot of other things for people who were perhaps not as fortunate to access those resources. And I'm not even going to get into what kind of impact did it have on the colonies, say for instance like India, which bled for the sake of the industrial revolution, which bled off its resources for the sake of the industrial revolution, right? But let's come back to the topic. So over here we have industrial revolution that is happening in Europe. Things are looking beautiful. Basically what is happening is the society is having all these amazing new factories that are coming up. Yes, the factories are producing goods. Of course they're producing goods. The volume of trade is of course increasing. Yes, and if the volume of trade is increasing, the economy is prospering, there's a lot of money being pumped in, and of course the people have a lot more choices as far as their products are concerned. They have more choices to choose from, and their standard of living is improving. This is how the basic economic function of any society looks like. Yes, basically how it is all linked to production, and how production can basically improve your standard of living, essentially, right? But there is of course a flip side to everything. Now what is happening is, if there is a factory, say for instance this is some factory which is producing ice cream, right? So there is this factory which is producing ice cream. Now, for the sake of employment, right, for the sake of earning a livelihood, you have men and women and children, unfortunately, right? Men, women, and children are coming to these factories to work, right? However, they do not have any control, right? These people who are coming to the factory to work essentially do not have any right or any control over the goods or the services, or rather the things that are being produced in the factory. Let's say for instance this man, this child, and this woman are coming to this ice cream factory to work. They essentially do not have any control over any of the ice cream that is being produced, right? They do not have a say in how it is produced. They do not have a say in how it is marketed. They do not have a say in how much how much share of the profit are they going to get. nothing of that sort really, right? So the idea behind each of these factories was simply profit maximization, right? So of course these factories were owned by independent factory owners. That is of course very obvious, right? If now for instance just keep yourself in the shoes of, now you'll have to be a little you'll have to imagine here a little bit. Think that you own this ice cream factory. Your goal of course will be to have as much profit as you can out of it, very obviously, right? But if you want to maximize your profit, what is going to happen? You're going to increase the working hours. You're going to increase the working hours of the people who are working in your factory. Yeah, you are not going to pay them as much as you should ideally, so that your profit remains at an all-time high. You would perhaps not provide them with proper housing, right? That is very obvious. You have to save money. Excuse me. And then of course what is going to happen? You are not going to give them proper sanitation, right? You are not going to give them a proper education, so that they do not understand really what is happening. And of course, last but not the least, you will not really care about the existence or the value of their labor, the existence of the person and the value of the labor. So you would perhaps hire and fire them based on all your whims. So there is of course going to be an increase in the unemployment levels in this society. Yeah, fair enough. So this is essentially what was happening. So if I was to look at this I could perhaps call it the problem of industrialization, in a very not in a very I mean basic understanding. Okay, of course the problems of industrialization are very deep rooted, but this is of course one of the problems, or one of the causes of misery for the people, right? So essentially what is happening now is, because of all of these factors combined, right, because of all of these factors combined, the working class is poor. Okay, does not has no access to resources, right? Has no access to resources, has no control on the means of production, right? Like means of production as in factories, right? And so on and so forth, and is basically in a nutshell is oppressed, right? And is oppressed, right? So now now this is our problem over here. Okay, this is the problem that is happening. So the great political theorists and scientists, and I'm not talking about the science scientists, the political scientists, the political thinkers of that time, devised this new political philosophy which became super popular in a very less span of time, and that was the theory of socialism as a means to bring about a positive and a sustainable change in the society, right? To bring about a positive and a sustainable change in the society, right? Fair enough. So this theory of socialism which came up during this time really became popular in Europe by the mid 19th century. It became super popular, especially amongst the working classes, by the mid 19th century, right? So I'm talking about 1850s something, right? Now, what was this philosophy that these people tried to propagate? Essentially, socialism is a philosophy where, say for example, if you tell people that you're a socialist, what it means is that you are against private property. Okay, you are against the ownership, like the private ownership of property. Okay, so you are essentially against private property. Your philosophy is that if the society as a whole, okay, if the society, as in all the people living together, if the society as a whole was able to control property, okay, as a whole was able to control property, then it would perhaps promote collective social interests, right? So it would perhaps promote collective social interests. Yes, makes sense. Cool. Right. Now, if we now this is generally right. So essentially, what you are looking at is you are looking at greater equality in the society, irrespective of class status. Yes, irrespective of the class status, you would perhaps like to have greater equality in the society, and that is what you want to promote collective social interests. That is who you are if you are a socialist, right? So now, if we were to look at the leading socialist thinkers of that time, there are essentially three of them, three very popular ones. Okay, we have Robert Owen, Mr. Robert Owen, this gentleman. Then we have a Frenchman known as Louis Blanc, and of course we have this amazing bearded guy, great guy, Karl Marx, who's German, right? And of course his dear old friend Frederick Engels, together, right? So they worked together. They did their academic research together, and they criticized capitalism together, basically, right? So yeah, essentially these are the three people. Now if we talk about Robert Owen and Louis Blanc, these were people who were absolutely in favor of a socialist model of governance. Okay, these were people who specifically were in favor of cooperatives, right? Cooperatives. An excellent example of a cooperative in the Indian context is Amul. Yes, the same brand which produces milk, ghee, butter, ice creams, chocolates. Yes, Amul in Gujarat, right? Which is a cooperative of cattle herders, right? So essentially, what cooperatives are in the strictest sense of the term, they are basically associations of people who produce the goods together, right? They come together, they form some goods, any particular goods, and then they keep the profit for themselves, right? Or they invest it back into the cooperative, as and how the case may be, right? So they are associations of people, right, who produce goods together, uh, and what do they do? They keep the profit, or divide the profits equally. So this of course is a better way to ensure equality, because if you look at the case of industrialization, all the profit that exists goes to the factory owner and is not really shared with the poor worker who is flogging for 16 to 18 hours in the factory, right? So that is problematic, right? So they were in favor of cooperatives, both of them. Louis Blanc, in fact, said he said that cooperatives could be built if the governments encouraged them. So he was again in favor of cooperatives, right? Then of course we have Karl Marx. Karl Marx is one of the leading political thinkers of Europe. What was his argument? Basically, his argument was rather that according to him, an industrial society, or an industrialized society, was capitalist in nature, right? Capitalism is a political philosophy in which private ownership of means of production like factories, land, industrial equipment, whatever, is encouraged. Individual enterprise is encouraged, right? Individual enterprise is encouraged, and free market trade, right? So basically, what they say is that the government does not have any role to play in the market. The market will regulate itself. Basically, if two people are producing cotton candy in the market, without government's regulation itself, because of the competition that is there in the market, they will strive their level best to produce the best cotton candy and come up with the most innovative ways to produce cotton candy, which will automatically yield a lot more profit, yield a lot more innovation. People will get a lot more choices. You get the gist, basically, right? Yeah. So yeah, it's like capitalism. Classic example is shoes in the United States, right? You have, what do you have? You have Reebok, you have Nike, you have, I mean, so many brands, right? You have, I don't know, Puma, right? You get the gist. So his concern was industrial society was capitalist in nature, right? That is what he argued his entire life. He said that since it was capitalist in nature, industrial society exploited the workers. Okay, the workers were being exploited. They were made to work long hours. They were not paid enough. They were not made a part of the profit. Profit was usurped by the factory owners, etc., etc. So basically, factory owners exploited the workers, did not share profits, etc., etc., right? So his idea was that the workers need to construct a radically socialist society. Okay, radically socialist society, which they could do by means of a revolution. Okay, and this revolution could of course be armed revolution. And after constructing this radically socialist society, they could perhaps come to a utopia where all the property was socially controlled. Yes, where all property was socially controlled. So this is Karl Marx for you. And I guess with that, we're going to end today's session. Today we had a very brief understanding of what industrial society looked like in Europe at that point of time, what are the problems that were associated with industrialization, and how socialism emerged as one of the solutions that was proposed by leading political thinkers of that time in order to address this problem of rising inequality in European society. And on that note, I shall take your leave. During In the next session, we will see how the support for socialism grew, and then we would of course take it forward from there. Until then, please take care, stay safe, maintain social distancing, and wear a mask when you go outside, and take good care of yourselves. Thank you so much, and goodbye.